Are you a DEI hire? Or maybe you're DEI proud? Is it something that we should celebrate? Something that we should be afraid of? Let's talk about it. Well, wake up leaders. This is Glenn Guyton, keynote speaker and coach with Futurist. It's time for our executive coffee break. I am here to help you unlock the power of your people. I have my beverage in hand. I hope you have yours too. They say that you can't choose your family, but you can choose your workplace culture and your beverage. Of course, I'm drinking water this morning. My goal is to equip you with strategies to foster a culture of innovation, reduce workplace stress, and elevate team performance. If you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. Let's get into it. All right, so we're in the midst of a crazy political season, and you probably heard the term DEI hire being thrown around in a number of ways, and so I just want to talk about it. What's the history of this? I will say this. I don't think DEI is helpful. The acronym. Let me clarify that before you all get into me. The acronym. I think anytime we start using acronyms, that we lose the weight, the gravitas of the original term, the origin. And so DEI stands for diversity, equity, inclusion. And so I want to dive a little bit deeper into that. Is it something that we should embrace that term, or the philosophy behind it? You know, how did it come about? You know, whose fault is it? Who started all of this? Those are things that we should think about. Those are questions that we should ask ourselves, especially if we are leaders of organizations, if we are working in the field of HR. I met with a number of DEI practitioners, and I read a lot of things about DEI now that people are saying, "Oh, that's the DEI hire." Some people are equating that to the N word. Some people are saying, "No, we can't let DEI become a pejorative." And again, my thought is that buzzwords and acronyms are not significant. In other words, once things become a catchphrase or a buzzword, or you can slap it on a t-shirt, it really loses the weight, the gravitas. And so I would rather focus on strategies. I'd rather focus on how can we become a more diverse, equitable, and inclusive organization. I would rather say that than worry about if someone's called someone a DEI hire, or have to say, hey, I'm DEI proud. But I am proud of organizations and institutions that are diverse, that are equitable, and have inclusive leadership practices. And so that's just me. You have to find your own path. But I want to talk a little bit about the history of DE&I and the terms. And one of the things, first thing I will say is that terminology changes. Terminology changes. At one point, we were talking about equal opportunity. We were talking about affirmative action. Now we have DE&I, and it's not necessarily in that order, but things change. Words and terms change. You need to focus on strategies. That's my expert advice to you. You focus on strategies. You let other people worry about naming conventions. We want to get at the heart of strategy and the things that work and will help us to accomplish our goals in the workplace. Again, we want healthy employees. We want employees in good mental state. We want talented employees with diverse skills, diverse viewpoints, diverse perspectives, because we want to be the best. We want to have a competitive edge. And I do think if we really look at what the heart of DE&I, or diversity, equity, inclusion, means, that we will get there. And so anyone should be proud to be a DE&I hire, or to be, that's probably not the right way to say it. I would say to be at a company that practices diversity, equity, and inclusion. Anyone should be proud of that, because you know that that your company is going to be competitive, that you're bringing in the right people with the right skill sets to accomplish your mission with greater harmony and less stress. Who doesn't want that? Do you want to be stressful? I don't want to be stressed out. I don't want to be stressed out. I want to do my job, and I want to do it next to people that are different from me, that have good skills and great experiences, and we help each other and we fit together well, like a well-built puzzle. So how did this all start? This all start. Twitter thinks it all started yesterday. Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and on TikTok, they think all this started yesterday. It didn't. It didn't start with Joe Biden. It didn't start with Obama or whoever you think started this. It didn't start with Trump. It didn't start with any of these people. Let's go way back. I'm going to go way back to 1903. 1903. We're coming out of Reconstruction. We've had the Civil War, 1903. And you think that was a long time ago? My dad was born in 1907. My biological father, yes, was born in 1907. So in 1903, 4 years before my dad was born, W.E. Du Bois wrote this book called, and some other people, The Negro Problem. But it really highlighted some of the struggles and challenges that were going on in society. You had a labor force that was free, right? Slaves. They were a free labor force to drive the industrial complex of the nation. And then all of a sudden, you had to start paying these people. You're supposed to pay them. And you had people moving, people leaving the South, going to the North. And so you had a massive demographic shift in society tied to the economic well-being and capacity and industrial capacity of our country. Major shift. And so it was a challenge. It was a challenge for this country to make that significant shift. And so people said, hey, it's a problem. We need to do something about this. Now, I'm gonna fast forward because I can't give you a whole American history lesson, but let's fast forward to 1941. 1941. We have Executive Order 8802, prohibition of discrimination in the defense industry. All right, so this is under Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Issued this executive order banning discrimination in employment practices for federal agencies. So the government always kind of leads the way in these things, and all unions and companies engaged in war-related work. Now, what's going on during the war? We have a need for a lot of people to produce a lot of stuff. And you had millions of jobs being created in early 1941. You need people. And these were in urban areas, not the rural South, in urban areas. So large number of African Americans moved, or black people, Negroes probably at the time, moved to cities in the North and West to work in defense industry. And what happened? People were not happy about that. So big economic change, big change in the need for production. And so you have a labor migration, again, change in demographics connected to a change in the need for economic capacity. So these people met with violence and discrimination. Now, do you think the government just said, hey, don't just treat these poor black people, colored people well because we just loved them so much? No, the government needed bodies. They needed a labor force. And so how can you get the labor force that you need if you are discriminating against them, if they are suffering violence when they're trying to come and do their jobs? So the government needed to step in. So 1941, we had the prohibition of discrimination in the defense industry. And so that's part of the process, is that we need a labor force. We have to treat this labor force properly in order for us to be able to accomplish the things that we want to accomplish. That's why we had some of these changes in society. We need more bodies, and we can't treat these bodies and these people as inhuman if we want them to produce. It's as simple as that. That's part of the history of some of these things in our country. And so we have this executive order also established the Committee on Fair Employment Practice. It was done out of some necessity. I don't know how much compassion was involved in these things, but okay, were all these people DEI hires or anti-discrimination hires? Yeah, I guess they were, because there was a need You needed a labor force, and you had to treat that labor force properly in order for them to be able to produce and do the jobs that you wanted them to do. Does that make sense? I hope it makes sense to you all. All right, so let me fast forward a little bit. I'm going to go to 1961. John F. Kennedy coined the term affirmative action. So I believe he came up with that affirmative action. We need to take positive action. We need to do some stuff. That's what affirmative action means. And so I remember, I'm old enough to remember, I was born in 1969, but I'm old enough to remember that when, affirmative action was kind of a negative term. Oh, you're affirmative action hire. Same thing. So DEI hire, affirmative action hire. Again, terms don't matter. Strategy really matters. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 outlawed discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, and origin. So national origin. So we're expanding these things a little bit. 1961, affirmative action term started. It was race, creed, color, national origin. So we're adding some things. You think we're post World War II. The armed forces was desegregated in 1948. I know I'm going backwards, but I just want you to let you know these things have a long history. More women are entering the workforce. So you think about the war, all the men are gone fighting the war. More women are entering the workforce in the 50s. And so now we have to think about sex, gender discrimination. And so that's why these things have expanded, why things have changed. And so labor, economic impact, the need for people to drive this American economy is the reason why we have made a lot of these changes, why the laws have changed, why the government is driving these changes. So DE&I, diversity, equity, and inclusion initiative programs, those names have been around for a while. My understanding, even in the 60s, we were talking about this, but people weren't just using acronyms out the wazoo back then. We had the Equal Opportunity Act, the EEOC, Equal Employment Opportunity Act, 1972. And so these things have continued to evolve. ERGs were created, employee resource groups were created by Xerox in I think it was the 70s in response to, it might have been a little bit earlier than that. Fact check me on that. But in response to the riots in Rochester, the race riots. So IBM, a company, decided, hey, we're gonna create this program because we need to deal with the social unrest and the things that are going on, and also take care of our employees. So that was in the 60s. The Rochester riots were in the 60s. Was in the 60s. So industry responded to a societal need, and because they need their employees to show up to work and feel safe, and they had to deal with all the stress that was going on. That's why we have these things, and why we think about diversity, equity, inclusion, because we need talent. We need diverse talent in order to continue to grow and thrive in this capitalistic society. Now, yeah, some people do it because it's right, because it's the right thing to do. That's one aspect of it. Most of the times in organizations, it's done because we need good well-being from society. We want society to respect us as an organization. Two, we need quality talent, and we can't just limit ourselves to one demographic. And we have to treat our people well if we want to get the most out of them. So it's a lot going on right now. I want you to think about strategy, focus on strategy. Don't get caught up in this term or that term. Get caught up in the tools that you need to accomplish your mission and treat your people well so that you get the most out of your people, so that you are a place where people want to work, where they can go there, they can thrive, and they can contribute. I believe these things still give you a competitive edge. Especially as the job market tightens, as our job market begins to age, you're going to need quality people from diverse backgrounds. Diversity, equity, inclusion is for everyone, and you should be proud if your company practices it. So thank you. My name is Glenn Guyton. I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful day.